Good to see everyone here today. This is a nice, vibrant Ango entering session. Entering the walled garden. We've entered here in this Ango. Boy, those of you who were there last Monday know that this walled garden metaphor came to me like 2 hours before my Dharma talk on Monday. And I've had a lot of people write me, those were there on Monday, so they loved it. And then people who weren't there on Monday have written me and said, this walled garden is really working for me. So I've had people come and jump into Ango, really resonating with this. And it's the spirit of Ango. I have no doubt about it. It is peaceful dwelling, right? Hunkering down from the monsoon. There's this quality of protection and nurturance. So I want to just appreciate some of the aspects of that are coming alive for me as we enter into this Ango period together. So we're all in here as caretakers, gardeners even, right, of this walled garden, this precious space. So our role here is to nurture, the plants, even fertilize the plants, right? So how do we do that? Well, it's really taking good care, right? Taking good care of our life. That's really the essence of it. Taking good care of your life, right? We say our, but it's really my. That's what we should be saying. I'm taking care of my life. You take care of your life. I'll take care of my life. And that's us taking care of our life. I like to say, as I said at the beginning of the day, take care of your practice and it'll take care of you. And it's so true. Yeah. Do others find this to be true? Is this something you find? Take care of your practice. So often we're kind of caring for our, we're making sure we're okay. We're making sure we're going to be okay. That we're going to get the nourishment we need, the love we need, the attention we need, the connection we need, we have the money we need. There's this kind of constant checking to make sure we're going to be cared for, that we are cared for. Oftentimes we're looking for that care, from the outside. So our attention is very much oriented out. When I get what I need from my partner, community, job. So there's usually some like base level continuous sort of checking around, okay, do I need anything? Am I cared for? And of course it's important to be, to have your needs taken care of. But we just take it so far. It's become so, focused, so almost obsessive, right? That our concern is for our life, for our experience. That's where the concern is. I love this quote from Norman Fisher that I put out a few weeks ago. Keeps coming back to me. Bodhisattvas don't care so much what happens to them. They have bigger concerns. That's not what he said. That's my second line. I'm trying to remember what he said. Does anybody remember what his quote was? Bodhisattvas don't care so much what happens to them. Yeah, I'm not sure. They care about others. They care about bigger things. It really is bigger things, more important things than, the comfort of the self. So we take care of our practice, right? That's not taking care of the ego, and it's whatever, however you think of the ego as a process, or a habit pattern. Instead of taking care of that, see what your practice demands, what your practice is asking for, what is it calling for, what level of commitment does it need from you, what quality of showing up does your practice need from you. So take care of that. Yeah, if you're not entering into your morning sitting with a good kind of caretaking quality of mind, I'm really gonna hold the preciousness of this practice in my heart, hold the privilege of this practice in my mind. Just the opportunity that we have to do this practice. Might not be here tomorrow. Yeah, so a certain quality of reverence, towards the Dharma and towards your practice it's really called for here, and it will really serve you. Yeah, because in taking care of the practice, well, that's what this is all about. This is a path of healing. It's a path of awakening. And like I said earlier this morning, it's a profound and sophisticated technology for awakening, this Dharma that we have. So it works. There's no question about it. It works. But this is an important part of it. The spirit of caretaking, the spirit of sincere effort around your practice. And that looks different for every one of us. Yeah, our practices are very unique in many ways. We have the basic forms of our practice, but each of us has kind of just the unique harmonious balance, you could say, of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, and kind of zazen, study, working with the teacher, working with the Sangha. All these elements of our practice that we have. You have your unique kind of balance of those things. So in this Ango period, you can find a harmonious balance in practice, study, community. Study. So study is an example. I want to talk about study. Studying the Dharma in our kind of more traditional sense of study, we're learning. We're learning concepts. We're learning ways to be in relation, ways to practice. Learning about qualities that we might dimly perceive in ourselves or strongly perceive in others that we would like to cultivate. Yeah, like studying the paramitas is such a great, for example, just to hear these virtues of patience and joyful effort and generosity are deep paths of awakening. If I hadn't been told that, I wouldn't have come up with it myself. I mean, I could probably say that about 95% of the formal Buddhist teachings, the Dharma. Like, would I have come up with this stuff myself? I don't think so. Right? It's like, wow, amazing. I remember, first getting exposed to it. It's like, really? Wow. So we can study. We've got several study groups that are happening over the course of this Ango. We've got the precept group. Again, many of you have taken it. Several of you are taking the one that's starting next week or the week after. Everybody's welcome to jump into that precept group if you'd like, whether you've taken the precepts before or not. That'll be a 3-series class that we have. I'll be doing the Zen Life Path group as a formal series of 5 that I'm hoping there'll be some interest in doing that class again. I'll lead all of the sessions, and I've got a good idea for how I'd like to move through material of vow in the areas of self, work, and relationship. So I'll put some more information out about that. But I'd love to get a little study group around that. And that'll be available remotely as well for those online. I've been working with several people in weekly or bi-monthly Dharma dialogues using certain texts with the identity of relative and absolute, or Hongzhis, cultivating the empty field. Some of you are working with koan collections as study pieces. So some of you are working with instructions to the cook, Tenzo. Dogen's instructions to the cook and the commentary around that. So there's some very, very rich study material. And if you're attracted to either of the practice, this class series, jump in. If you'd like to work with one of these texts in that way, let me know about that. And I can either work with you individually, or we might be able to put another study group together that works with texts. It's kind of life-changing to study the Dharma formally. Yeah. So another level of study is actually more like practice. You could say, I don't know if I say deeper, but another level. And I just came upon this in Maizumi Rishi's Appreciate Your Life, which is kind of my primary text for this whole Ango. I find myself, coming up to a Dharma talk, I'll just crack it open, and like pretty much the first thing I read is like, oh my God, this is pretty rich. See if I could talk about this for too long. So and I think Joan's going to do the same. Yeah, so him digging into Appreciate Your Life. So I never knew this. Dogen, Genjo Koan, to study Buddhism is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by the 10,000 things. To study Buddhism is to study the self. This word study in Japanese is narau, and he says it's more like to repeat something over and over. We could also say to learn, but not necessarily to learn something new. Perhaps a better word would be to practice. So to practice the Buddha way is to practice the self. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To practice the Buddha way is to practice the self. Practice the self. Or, he says, just to live life. This seemingly repetitive process is nothing but one's own life. Right. So study the self, and there's that quality of over and over of repetition. Right? So most people during Samu did weeding, right? It's just the perfect repetitive practice. One of them, to be intimate with these living beings, but there's so much, just over and over, where every Every weed is unique. Everyone has its own, depth of roots or quality to it, texture to it, feel to it. Of course, everybody had gloves on, so maybe nobody felt the weeds, unless you took the gloves off. Yeah. Okay, so just that repetition, those when people start practice, it's boring. People starting, breath practice is boring. But there's, you practice for a while and you come to see it's actually amazingly rich. Because you're getting intimate with this repetitive life force manifestation that's happening. This is studying the self over and over and over. I think this, I don't know if this is like legit, but about a year ago I kind of came up with boring is kind of like a drill bores into the earth. So boring is like going deep into yourself. You do that repetitive thing, whatever it is, over and over and over and over, and it goes deep into your soul. Over and over and over and over. This repetition is really important. Okay, returning over and over. There's a ritual quality to your life, but I'm not saying that as if the ritual is something added. You're actually bringing out the sacred dimension of your life by enacting your life as ritual. Everything you do, brushing your teeth, drinking water, eating food, connecting with others, breathing, walking. The repetition of the ordinary brings the sacredness of your life alive. We get to do this in the walled garden. We get to do this. Yeah. And one reason is because we have some kind of order in this garden. It's an orderly garden. I have this image of a Japanese garden, with these beautifully manicured stone fields and bridges and the bonsais and flowers. I've never been to Japan, but they've got a really beautiful one in Chicago where I used to live. That's what Ango is. But this order is important to give us a structure for the repetition that we're all doing together to enliven and manifest the sacred. Maizumi talks about order. How do we make our lives more orderly? When you stabilize your life, you will concentrate better, and when you eliminate all separation, you will realize the Buddha's wisdom. Upon his realization, Shakyamuni Buddha declared, "I and all beings simultaneously attained the way." This is true order. The order of no order. All Dharma comes out of this no order. Simultaneously attaining the way is the true order of our life. Our life is being realized right now. Not just our life, everyone's life. Everyone's life is being realized right now. When we realize this no order, then so-called disturbing situations are no longer disturbing. They can be taken as occasions to encourage our practice and not disturb it. That got pretty deep right there. The order of no order. This happens like every freaking paragraph in Appreciate Your Life. The first few sentences, you're like, yeah, duh, I got that. And then before you know it, you're like off a cliff into the non-dual. And you're like, wait, how did you get there from there? But it's a beautiful koan. I don't want to say too much about it. I can't say too much about it. My mind is not comprehending. I and all beings simultaneously attain the way. This is true order. But it's the order of no order. Well, there's no order, right? Because everything's happening all at once. So it's not like anything is above or below or before or after anything else. That's the no order. And all Dharma comes out of this no order. So simultaneously attaining the way is the true order of our life. Our life is being realized right now. So we find this no order within an orderly life, in order to stabilize our consciousness. Yeah. When we're chaotic or disturbed by disturbances, it's difficult or impossible. It can be difficult, to really actualize this no self. Yeah, because the self is kind of protecting itself from the disturbances and from the chaos, right? It's kind of reactive and even defensive sort of things come up. Self doesn't like chaos and disturbance. So there's a kind of a mollification or a pacification or a safety that is achieved from the order. Which leads me to the final quality I wanted to talk about, which is guardianship. The wall of the garden. Right? It's protected, it's bounded. We asked for entry and we're welcomed in. And now each of us are the guardians and the tenders of the garden. But these walls are actually important. Walls do keep order within and something out. So, what are the walls of your Ango, of your peaceful dwelling season? What will they keep out? Yeah. So what can they keep out? They can keep out distractions. They can keep out things that don't serve you, things that don't support your practice, people, habits, relationships, information. Living in this world, constant barrage of information, constant stream of, material, voices, forces, appeals, seeking your attention, your engagement, your participation, your money, your blood. right? So, you've got some control over that, right? I don't know what your digital diets are. I try to be somewhat mindful of mine, but I do a lot of work, online. But, I guess fortunately I'm kind of so busy, occupied, taking care of, Zen Center and family and business that I don't really have a lot of time or bandwidth to like even read the news very much or do anything idly, I guess. I don't have a lot that's kind of unintentional in terms of my digital diet. And there's a blessing in that. But yeah, my point is about the walls and keeping out that which doesn't serve you in your practice over this period. Yeah, so that's one way you might practice. Okay, well those are the qualities that came to me about this walled garden. There's much more that we'll talk about, but caretaking, nurturance, study as practice together, guardianship, protection. We've got a nice, stretch here of 11 weeks, I think it is. And we get to kind of deepen in and play, right? There's that quality too. We've got a nice garden here, so there's room for play as well. Miyoko and I will be leading a dancing Zen retreat, which we added late to our Ango schedule, which I'd really like to encourage people to attend if you can. We'll be combining conscious movement practices with sitting meditation, and it's very I mean, fun is kind of not a wrong word. it's a juicy and deep and fun to combine, sitting meditation with movement meditation. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, we'll return to our practice for the afternoon.